Project Toasty, the only place where the girlfriends and boyfriends come together to explore and express ourselves, and we have a very special guest, and we are talking about spectrums. Ashley, take it away.
Identity spectrums are literally one of the most fascinating things in the world to me, and I could talk for hours on them. So first, let's jump into one potentially major aspect of a person's identity that exists on a spectrum, and that is gender. Now, unfortunately, we live in a society that can view gender in a very binary way. It sees males, females, men, women, not much else. But one day somebody said, no, gender is a social construct and therefore there is no right way to define it. Also, it exists on a spectrum. Are men, women, and an infinite amount of identities in between. And while I love the idea of this spectrum and I love how it challenges cisnormativity, what I love even more is how some people didn't even think this model was gender inclusive enough and they took it even further. They thought the idea of gender being male, female, and everything that falls in between was too linear and still ultimately feeding into the binary. When the reality of this identity is it's not such a straight line. It's in fact more wibbly wobbly gendery wendery. And one of the funnest visual aids that I recently came across that depicts gender in a non-linear, multi-dimensional way is the Gender Planet. This model might be a little cutesy and sort of oversimplified, but I love the ultimate message it communicates. And that is that gender is often too complex to fall within a linear model. And it's not just gender that exists in a multidimensional spectrum, but a zillion other parts of your identity as well. For example, sexual orientation, so who you're attracted to, the same sex, the opposite sex, both, everyone. Also romantic orientation, so who you see yourself falling in love with or spending the rest of your life with. And fun fact, it's totally normal for romantic orientation to be different than sexual orientation. Also just how sexual you are. Do you identify as asexual, sexual, or also there are a lot of cool things in the middle like gray sexual and demisexual. I like that one. I identify as demisexual. Also, expression of any of these qualities also exists on a spectrum. Just because you identify one way doesn't mean you necessarily express that way, and that's totally fine. And none of these things have to line up in a certain way for you to be doing them right. If you like, you can plot yourself and draw a line and then have a map of your awesome, complex, and multi-dimensional identity. I just did. That's me in a map. Another important thing to note is that one key component that gives these spectrums meaning, that makes them functional, is labels. And labels definitely don't work for everybody. Some people don't find them helpful, healthy, or accurate when identifying, and everyone has the right to reject or create new labels. On a linear model, you can be multidimensional, and that is super cool. Leave me a comment with something interesting or non-conforming about your identity, and we can get to know each other a little bit.
So for this week's project challenge, you guys are going to make your own gender sexuality map, we're gonna call it. You're gonna follow Ashley's little guide. It's gonna look something like this when you are finished. When you are done with it, post it to our Tumblr page. We will see you guys back here in 2 weeks for a new Toasty project and a new guest host. I will see you guys then. Bye!